Oh, it says you are live. So I guess they're talking to me and I'm talking to you. I'm Brent Leary.
And I don't actually know who I'm talking to, but I'm Paul Greenberg.
You would think that we would kind of, be used to this by now, but apparently we're still not. And that's good because that means we're keeping it fresh, we're keeping it live. We're the CRM players and you aren't.
Oh, that's a tribute to Norman. That's a tribute to Norman. No, that's true.
Wow.
Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase.
I'm not him either. So
I'm Weekend Update and you're not. I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. Right.
You know what? We should do a CRM Players Weekend Update edition. Like, just do something on the weekend and see what happens.
Okay. That'll be the 16th thing we do.
Look, I can be Colin Jost and you can be Michael.
See how that goes, do thing? Yeah? We could do that thing they do where they write a joke for the other person that they don't see, that they have to read it.
Oh, wow. What if we write something? No, I'm not gonna even put out what I was thinking. I'm gonna reel this one back in a bit and think about it a bit more. But yeah, I think there's something there. There is
okay. I'm there. Game. Weekend Update coming up.
And guess what? There's someone here.
All right, Sven. Welcome, sir.
And it's easy for us to understand what language that is today, too. So, salute. And guess who's here? Oh, Joe Andrews.
Man,
look at that. Guess what, Joe? You are not going to believe this. You are going to like something that we are going to do right off the bat. And I'm using that word for a reason. In just a few minutes. But good to see Joe. What is Sven saying here? Okay. Sven is like, wow. Sven is coming with a little fire there. I tell you. Yeah, we're not on Saturday Night Live
yet. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Well, we're working our way up to it. But anyway, yes,
Joe,
it is.
That's right. We'll be indistinguishable eventually.
Yeah. Anyway, so it is, another Thursday afternoon. Did you feel any different last Thursday? It felt different to me.
Me too. Because I was literally on a plane. Right. So, which was a very different thing since March 2020. So, no, it was, I will tell you though, aside from the actual flight experience, which wasn't bad, it's pretty good all in all. I did miss doing the show.
I know it felt like it really felt like I was in the wrong place or something.
Yeah,
although I was still here, but I just felt like I should be doing something now. Something doesn't feel right.
I think that we were our multiverse hasn't converged yet, so we were in a different one of the many universes in the multiverse.
Wow. Okay. And you were doing something different in that multiverse, which is marrying your niece.
That was
off. Marrying your niece off.
Well, there you go. That one came out really wrong. Boy, did that one come out wrong.
Wow. That's the second time I've done that to myself on a broadcast in the last couple of weeks. Wow. So, yes, marrying your niece off to a fine young gentleman.
It was scary though. I've given, I don't know, 1,000 speeches. I make part of my living giving speeches, and I've been doing it since roughly, let's see, when the first edition of CRM Playa come out. So 2001. And
wait a minute. 2000. So we're at the 20th anniversary of the first edition of CRM at the Speed of Light.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to do something around that. Good Lord.
Okay, how's this? Yay, CRM Speed of Light. Okay, that was great. That was great.
Now back to the story.
Woo, woo, woo.
That's big. All
No,
right.
it's 20 years. Don't worry, Rebecca. You can count on us not
Yes, please.
making any
No
jokes
more.
about that. So when I'm doing speeches, I'm nerveless. I mean, I'm nervous. Nothing disturbs me. I could speak to the largest crowd I ever spoke to was actually was a crowd of educators, and it was 16,000, and
Wow.
didn't bother me in the slightest. I felt no nerves, not nervous. I don't rehearse. Nitin, hey buddy, I didn't rehearse nothing. I had a grand total of 10, and that was an hour plus speech. I had a grand total of 10 minutes in this as the officiant of the wedding of my niece and her fiance, and of which probably 70% was me reading vows that I had to read in order for them to exchange the vows. And 30% was me kind of ad-libbing about stories and stuff like that. And I've never been so nervous in my life. I was
Wow.
just thinking, not only this is my niece's wedding, and it's once in a lifetime, hopefully, and they're videoing this. If I mess this up, they have a permanent record of me messing up their wedding, right? And this is my favorite sibling, niece, whatever. What I don't know what they call niece nephews combined. Them.
I
There
don't
is
know.
no name for
Yeah.
them, I don't think. So
No.
them. She's my favorite, and so. But you know what? As it worked out, as soon as the two of them were up there, my nerves went away. It was really worked out well. I was told I killed it. I was in a state of half shock. So all I know is I felt immense relief when it was done. Right, immense
I
that I
bet.
did not mess it up.
I bet. I'm sure. Although you've given speeches to thousands of people, no one more special and important than your niece on that particular occasion.
Well,
So,
an interesting thing. One last thing. A friend of mine told me. He said, "Yeah, when you're on a stage and you mess up on the stage, let's say, the only person being messed up by that is you, right? But if you're doing that at your niece's wedding, then they're getting messed up, and
yeah.
that's a whole other universe."
Yeah, it's like you say something and maybe even try to tell a joke and it just lands flat. You can just move on. It's not a big deal. You don't want to land flat. Flat. I was gonna say something. I was gonna say you don't want to land flat on your niece, and that just is another way of not putting things the right way. So you
Right.
don't want to land on a bad thing during that kind of occasion. Boy, kind of tongue tied today for some
That's
reason.
okay.
Anyway, there is something special about today, and that's why I kind of alluded to it when we saw Joe Andrews. And I'm just wondering if Bob Fagel is out there too. But
Oh, I had a
anyway,
feeling it had something to do with that.
yeah. So today, 46 years to the date, something big happened. Do you remember what happened October 21st, 1975?
Is that the uh, Bucky Dent?
That would be a really good guess, but no. Well,
19.
1975. I'm gonna give you a hint. Here's the hint.
That's a big hint.
And Fisk will lead it off, has a single and has walked twice. And the wind blowing out. There it goes, a long drive. If it stays fair, home run. We will have a seventh game in this 1975 World Series. A lot of body English for Carlton Fisk. Watch him.
How many steps does he take? One. He waits to see it. Get over. Get over.
He knew it.
I like
There
that part.
It is.
Joe
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run! The Red Sox win. And the series is tied 3 games apiece. Carlton Fisk hit a 1-0 pitch.
That's what happened 46 years ago today.
And I love baseball, but I don't care.
You know what? That was like one of the first games I remember. That was still pretty small back then. But the thing I remember the most is doing that.
That was
I mean,
that I do. I think I heard the Joe Garagiola comment on that.
Yeah, another thing, Joe Garagiola.
I loved him, man. I love that guy.
That dude. That dude. I mean, it was him, and was it him and Tony Kubek? And like they were like on the national games back then. That's some good times. And of course, like, the Big Red Machine. It was they had everybody on the team. Like, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, George Foster.
Yep.
I mean, it was like Tony Perez. It was like a who's who.
That was an unstoppable group. And the next year they swept the Yankees, I think, in the World Series.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up, but
well, it's history. The Yankees don't even make the World Series anymore, so it doesn't really matter.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what happened 46 years ago today.
For you, Joe. That was for you.
There it is, Joe. And if Bob Fagel isn't there, too bad. I will never salute a Red Sox moment ever again. So if he missed it, he missed it. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, Bob, you missed it. And Martin apparently wasn't a big fan.
No, he's commiserating with me.
He was a Boston fan? Wait a minute. How did that happen?
No, I don't think he means that, does he? Martin, that's a very cryptic comment.
Oh, wow.
That's when he could commiserate with Boston fans, I think.
He says back. Oh, I guess that was before like something happened, and something traumatic must have happened, like something with the Patriots or something. I don't know.
So,
wait a minute. Oh, he's a Phillies fan. Okay, there it is.
That's it.
Yeah, they were both starved. Yeah, now you both have won. They've won several, and you won in 2009 or 2008.
No, 9.
2009. You won in 2009. The Phillies won in 2008.
Right, 2008. Sadly for Martin, we beat them in 2009.
Yeah. All right. So before we bring our guest out, I have a bit of a trivia question I thought it'd be kind of fun to ask.
Okay.
Let me see. Do I have it? Yeah. Okay. So have you watched this? What do they call it? The Squid Game? Squid Games?
I mean, I haven't watched it, but I know all about it, of course.
It's breaking like every record, and it's been like probably the most viewed Netflix original thing ever at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's been so many stories on it, so much focus on it, and I'm looking at this thing. Okay, so I'm looking at this this article that was done on this, and it's talking about how this has been such a big hit for Netflix, and kind of how they have been doing all this funding of content all over the world. They're creating all sorts of new shows in all these different places, and kind of telling the backstory to what's going on, and how Netflix is kind of starting to hit these big home runs in places nobody never imagined. And I saw this article that talked about it, and they had like some graphical images of the stats around this content and who's doing what. And so one of the things that I thought was really interesting was they had this one graphic about the library sizes for each of the these streams, these broadcast streams, like Disney Plus and HBO Max and Hulu and Netflix and Peacock and all these. And it had a graph of showing how much each of them had. Would you like to take a guess at who has by far the absolute biggest content library of all?
So that's of Netflix,
of all these
Hulu,
streaming services,
all of them. Is that? But we're not including YouTube as a service in this, right?
No, I mean these premium kind of.
Right. All right. Huh.
Anybody out there want to take a guess? Take a guess. I'll give you a couple of seconds, Mr. PG. I'm not even going to ask you the size. I'll just ask you, who do you think has the biggest? And I'll show you. I'll show this the graphic as to how much each of these folks have.
Okay. I mean, I've got a thought, but it's not. It's pretty much a wild guess.
Go ahead.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. That's a good guess. I mean, look at all the stuff they got, right?
Well, it's the history.
Let's see. Martin says HBO Max or Disney. Nitin says Disney. Sean Roderick says Amazon Prime. Any other guesses before I reveal? I'm going to reveal. Because one of those answers that the folks gave is the right answer. And here,
the only thing we left out is Hulu and Netflix.
Right. Okay. So here it is.
Amazon. Holy God.
Blew me away.
30,000.
Complete. I mean, they are lapping the field over and over. Combined, the other guys don't have as many as Amazon.
Wow.
That shocked me tremendously.
Well, I did notice that Amazon is now talking about creating a video rental service. I'm not sure what that's different than what they have exactly, but I saw that in a post the other day.
They've got, their own video library. They got IMDb. They has the deal closed with the MGM. I can't remember if that's closed down yet.
But I forgot IMDb. IMDb alone would give them an edge.
Yeah. So they have so much. And it's, we don't really think about them first because Amazon, you think about all these other things, but they got content galore. It's amazing. And you know what? They got, I don't know how the libraries, the rights are for like the live sports stuff because they just got, Thursday Night Football now. I don't know if that's their content because I don't know how that works. But
I guess at some level I'm not surprised. I mean, I think both you and I have identified the fact that the coming period for the world of business is start looking at how the millennials and Gen Z are creating, distribute, or how they're consuming content and how the content gets created and distributed. And Amazon's got Amazon's reach, right? So, it makes sense for them to have an extremely large library because basically they're going to have to deal. I mean, they're a point of distribution, and ultimately the biggest problem to solve in those three pieces isn't creation or consumption; it's distribution, and it's being solved in multiple ways. But these guys are, especially Amazon, is incredibly well positioned to really solve the distribution issue by doing things just like this, adding things like that rental service. I mean, those kind of things begin to resolve distribution in a format that the millennials and the Gen Zers can understand and use. So I guess in a way I'm not surprised.
All right. So we give let's see, who got that right?
Sean Roderick.
Sean Roderick. So Sean, you are the man. You got it right, and you win our gratitude for playing along.
I can send you a dozen, or I'll send you a dozen bagels.
Oh
no,
yeah.
Real bagels.
I was going to say, you must make at least one a blueberry bagel.
Only if he likes it.
All right.
Hey, Sean,
so I'm going to.
If you want it, Sean, send us your address. Send it to Paul-Greenberg3 at the56group.com, and I'll send you a dozen bagels from one of the best bagel places in the world.
How cool is that? Nice. All right. So let's go ahead and introduce our guest. Matter of fact, I like always letting Paul do it because he's got this venerableness about.
Well, I guess Paul isn't on this. That Paul's not on the show today, so he won't be able to do it.
All right, so I'm serious. So we're bringing on our guest, and Paul, do the honors, please.
Well, welcome Krishna Raj Raja, and the CEO of SupportLogic. And I will tell you something, my friend. You have built quite a player there. I'm going to just get right to it with you because I'm super. Look, you look at the world as it is, and we're always looking at. I'm going to ignore terminologies that we all as analysts use as buzzwords like hyper personalization, all this. But one thing you guys do, which I find exceptional, is you're wonderful at picking up signals from conversations that are going on in many, many different ways and in multiple different places, and identifying everything ranging from, let's say, level of interest to emotional state to possible opportunity to and you're scoring all of it besides, which is, and you're doing it in real time, and in a very, by the way, a very colorful way. I'm impressed. I am super impressed. I've never met you until today, really, but I would like to know, how do you even figure that? How do you even think to do this?
Hey, Paul, first of all, I was having so much fun in the backstage while you guys were talking about sports and movies and whatnot. I would have continued to listen through entire session without me. It was so much fun.
Believe me, you're going to be asked a particular sports question towards the end.
Remember what we said.
If it's about baseball, I probably won't have any answers.
No. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. I'll wait for it. Yeah, it's first of all, thanks for that introduction, Paul. That's really gracious of you to say that. I know you're such a recognized name in the industry, so that means a lot for us coming from you. So the genesis story about why we do what we do and why we are going after those signals, it really is. It comes from my nerd side in me. The nerd side in me, my pastime, my favorite way to spend time when I'm not working is watching YouTube videos. And one of the things that I watch is about the universe. So I watch everything about the universe, the space and the cosmos and the theoretical physics, time travel, parallel universe, you name it. I watch all of them. And one of the concepts I like in that is this mystery about the universe, about dark matter. So dark matter and dark energy is supposed to be 95% of our universe. And the entire physics knowledge that we have is for 5% of the known matter in the universe, all the stars and planets and whatnot, black holes and whatnot. So we have absolutely no clue about dark matter and dark energy. It goes through our body, it goes through our planet, it goes through suns and stars and everywhere. And there are no way to measure it, no way to interact with it. So we kind of assume that they don't exist, but they do exist because we see the effects, the gravitational effects of those. So when I was watching that and I realized, this is exactly what they're talking about, is exactly applies to unstructured data. Unstructured data is everywhere. We are doing this video stream right now. It's unstructured data. There's voice communication, your facial expressions and the images and whatnot. And when we are talking to customers, the same thing. They're sending so much unstructured data. Yet we don't have any tools today that allows you to process it. We kind of assume it doesn't exist. And so what we do is we put all the metadata around our CRM system, clutter them with the metadata. So if you take any CRM system, people put 50 fields or 100 fields just to track what's happening with the customers because we don't have the ability to process the unstructured data. So that was I would not say this is a genesis story, but I thought this is a nice parallelism that I saw.
I was thinking we're going to get the genesis story to SupportLogic. He almost gave us like the genesis story to like everything.
So was there a Big Bang?
Think about this. I mean, again, I'm going to be a science nerd today, and I'm going to give you a lot more physics examples. Every startup is a Big Bang. Every startup starts from nothing. And then matter and energy, everything gets created, and then it becomes this whole big thing. And that's how I see our company as well. It started with a conceived as an idea on paper on day one, and it's amazing where we have gone so far.
Well, historically, if I've looked at the industry over the years, the one company that's sort of from a different place and sort of a different way of doing it, but thought about the idea in I think, let's say a relatively similar way was Claribridge, right? And and they were where they of course got acquired by Qualtrics not too long ago, and which I think, by the way, for Qualtrics' sake, was a great deal for them. I mean, that was what they needed. And I've known Sid Banerjee from Claribridge for 12 years. I mean, they started in 2006, and I've known the company since 2008. And so, and the thing that they did, and it's what I have always been looking for, another company who might do this, but no one ever did it until you guys. And you don't specify the way I'm about to, but this is what fascinated me. So when I'm watching your demo and taking a look at how you do things, the thing I noticed is that when you're getting to the sentiment part, it's while it's general in the sense that it's colored generally, it's highly specific in terms of how you interpret it. So in the case of the word, let's say somebody says, "I'm really irritated," your scoring, your analysis will differentiate that from "I'm angry," right? And which is really, again, traditional sentiment analysis, 5 points: positive, negative, positive, somewhat positive, neutral, somewhat negative, negative, and that's pretty close to useless, really. You go way further, and you're the first company since Claribridge who has 11-point in specific, but you're the first company since Claribridge, and the only company since Claribridge that's actually analyzing sentiment from the level of the actual state, as opposed to the rough feeling about the state, right? And I think that's remarkable. And by the way, to me, it's one of the hugest positives that you have, and you have a lot of them. So but the other thing I noticed, and this is kind of where I want to get some, if you can provide some color on this, so to speak, is that you take that and it's tied to multiple other types of signals, and then you analyze all the signals, and then you score, right? And you have different types of scores. So I'm kind of curious as to, taking all these different types of things, what goes into the scoring? Because is that user determined? Is it determined by you guys? Users have no flexibility, or is it basically determined by you guys? Users can customize the foundation a bit, but they can't change the foundation. I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, great question, Paul. What you just said, if I took a transcript of it and I put it to our NLP system, we probably would have detected 30 different signals.
Wow.
Right. So all the positives you told about us and all other aspects you brought up. Yeah, let me answer the scoring system. Yeah. So we take various flavors of these different signals and different shades of colors. That's why we use a lot of colors on the website. And so these different signals have different impact on what's the customer's eventual outcome is. So we treat this very similar to a technique used in digital signal processing. When you do digital signal processing, you have multiple tracks. Let's say you're in music and you have multiple tracks, and all these tracks are playing simultaneously, right? And so then you do modulation of these different tracks separately, and all of them combines and forms a pleasing music. And you have to adjust those different tracks, volume level and other aspects of the audio to make it sound really good. So we do the same thing for scoring system. So under the score, what we're getting is the music, the different signals that we have in parallel impacts each other, and that's how the scoring system works. So we actually filed a patent for it. It's actually used some of the concepts in DSPs being applied here.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Analogy is great too, by the way. Music, I love that.
This is really fascinating. So there's so many, all the color that you're kind of gathering. How is that like something that you just give, like there's an interaction or an exchange or something, and at the end of it, after it's being analyzed, you come out with however you score it, because I'm not really familiar. But or are you tracking it in real time over time, like as the interaction takes place? They may have start out with really negative, and based on the conversation or the engagement, you see it changing in real time, and at the end you can then say this is what it is, and then whatever the outcome or the next step is, you're able to kind of match the whole interaction to the outcome, and then be able to leverage that in the next interaction or outcome you have with that customer or that type or classification or category of person.
We see this as a continuous stream, right? Any conversation with the customer is a one continuous dialogue. Now, for our own convenience, we break that down into transactions. And CRM systems are transaction based because they are underlying technology that powers them as a transactional database. So we carve out, okay, this is ticket and this is ticket ID and this is conversation. We see ourselves as one continuous conversation. So within a context of a ticket, that's back and forth messages within the context of a ticket, but within the context of an account, it's multiple tickets and multiple conversations that you're having. So the scoring system, at any point in time, up-to-date information that we have computes a current score for the current ticket. But also we have scoring system that rolls up for an account level, because maybe you had multiple tickets open in the recent past and each of them had a different outcome. Also, maybe there are multiple reporters within the same organization who are interacting with you. Not all of their experience might be the same. Maybe one person is really unhappy and the rest of the folks are really happy. So all of this is factored and rolled up into an account level score as well.
Wow.
That's
cool. So are you also able to pull in, are you also able to pull in interactions that they're having on social that aren't directly to engage with the actual contact center agent or something? So you're able to capture what else they're kind of talking about with others that actually impact the relationship and the need that they have from a experience perspective.
We don't do social yet. It's definitely, we would consider doing that down the road. We're focused on B2B customers at this point. So B2B customers interactions, you rarely see them in social media. But I think that's a fair game for us. Basically any form of customer communication is a fair game for us. Ticketing system interaction is one, chat is other, Zoom calls could be other, voice calls could be the other. Again, our focus is on the text portion of it. So we believe that voice to text is going to get super commoditized and super cheap. And so the real game is not in the voice to text conversion, but what signals can you extract from the text interaction, but also maintain context of the signals across conversational boundaries and across the data source boundaries. What can you do with it? So that's the game we are playing.
So how does your system, this is kind of an extreme thing, so I'm just curious how the system would handle it. So assume it's a Zoom call in particular, and the conversation in the initial part of the call is over it's basically an open ticket, but it requires a Zoom call for something to be resolved. And the Zoom call in the beginning is fine. Everything's fine. The agent on the Zoom call says something and it just sends the other person off, right? Mm-hmm. And they go like furious. And then 5-10 minutes later, they calm down a bit, and then something gets worked out, and there's an outcome that is either incomplete or a result that's final. And how does the system handle that outburst? Because I will tell you this, I know of another company that does a lot of voice. It's a voice only company, and it's a brilliant company. But what would happen in that instance, because it's tracking in real time, is a number of prescriptive uh, um, a number of prescriptive uh, what do you call it? Prescriptive choices would be given to the agent, saying, if you don't do this and this person's gonna get worse, or this person. But the reality is, it was a momentary outburst, and it was going to get better no matter what happened,
Right.
probably. So, but that one would throw the signal off, so to speak, or throw the results off. So, how does your system handle that kind of fragmented and short-term dramatic change in behavior and interest?
I think that this is where the context really comes into play. So we're not looking at anything at a transactional level. The other systems that you're referring to, depending on, let's say you're talking about only call center as a use case, right? A lot of call center calls are just transactional. You call and you answer a question, you're done. There's no continuous relationship. In B2B environment, there's a lot of continuous relationship. Even in B2C, depending on your product, if a product has a LTV component, lifetime value component, of course, there's a continuous relationship. So we are focusing on that market segment. So because of that, we are looking at context, and the context is not about what's happening right now, but what happened in the past. What is the crescendo of the communication with a customer? And so we take all of that factoring, and there's a weighting, moving average weighting, and there are a lot of other stuff we do behind the scenes to normalize that. So we're not just instantly reacting to what's happening. It's also what happened in the recent past matters.
So I guess just one follow-up on that then. So, okay, let's presume over time. So basically, if I'm correct in understanding, that outburst would just be seen as a point in time, as opposed to a emotional change, right? It's a momentary point in time there's nothing. It would be noted as not having a long-term impact.
Right. So let me give you an example, practical example. So we talked about sentiment as one dimensions of signals, and there are many flavors of sentiment signals. There's also other class of signal that we extract, which is about urgency. And urgency is not necessarily sentiment, right? How fast you want to get responded.
Right.
So when a customer opens a ticket, for instance, they'll say, hey, my systems are down. I need you to call me immediately. Urgency's system for us will shoot off in a really high value. And as you're interacting with a customer, we continuously monitor the tonality of the customer. Let's say you're going emailing back and forth with a customer. Then the scoring system will slowly start to decay, because right now the urgency level is declining. It's not the same anymore. So we look at interaction patterns, like how frequently you're communicating, and is there any delays between the communication, and also what's the tonality of this customer. So that's the running score. So same for sentiment. So sentiment, customers may call saying, most customers likely to be upset when they call. So we know there's a baseline is different. But from the baseline, where are you going? Which direction you're going? Are you going down the positive direction, or are you going the negative direction?
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful.
What are the big things that your customers are looking to you to help them answer for their customers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So actually, just to back off a little bit, when I started SupportLogic, I honestly thought sentiment analysis is going to be boring. I thought it's not going to be useful for customers. And I've done support. My background is support. And the reason I thought was, every time I talk to a customer is upset. What's new? What am I telling to a company that your customers are unhappy? That's not news to them. That's what I thought. But then working with customers, and I realized, yes, individually every agent knows it, but as an organization, you're not have the time and resources to monitor all those conversations. And there are few accounts where you cannot afford to have a negative experience. So the management needs access to such data, right? So then it occurred to me that if you look at data centers generally, data center has monitoring tools. The monitoring tools monitors your storage, your network, your compute, and says, hey, this is going, you're using a lot of CPU, maybe something will happen to this computer. It gives you early warning so that you can go proactively look at what is happening in the system before you have an outage, because outage means it's all hands on deck.
Right.
Today in the support world, that outage is escalation or churn. So today, support organizations are only handling outages. The only way you can get attention of your customer is the customer escalates or churn. That's when all hands on deck. So that seems so backward, right? So you should be able to proactively go and prevent it and say, this is going in the yellow state. Fix now so that you can avoid a red state. So that's the value that we are providing for our customers, monitoring all of this, maintaining context. And also, other thing is like when you have a large support center, when you have hundreds of people supporting your customers, your skill levels are different across these different support engineers. And that also becomes a problem. So our customers also said, hey, we also want to look at outbound messages, not about inbound messages. The signal extracted from the outbound message is also helpful to understand soft skill gaps across these different support engineers. So that's other use case. There are many, many use cases. I'm just giving you a few of the stuff that we do today.
So do you, I mean, I this stuff blows me away, to tell you the truth. I love it. And because ultimately the thing that you managed to do, which is a little unusual, really. I mean, we've spent close to a decade now talking about personalization, but you're actually talking about something slightly more, which is, and I'm overstating it with this word, but humanization, meaning you're picking up a rich set of signals from like what you said about me. I somehow gave off 30 signals, right? Which is frightening the hell out of me, and I'm never going to talk again.
That's why I'm like this.
That's right. That's right. Put my hat over my head, right? So, but that actually, those 30 signals in that short or over long, depending on how you view it, segment was me. Ultimately, it was me. It wasn't someone like me. It was my signals, and someone else like me would have a very different set of signals. Maybe there would be, and again, making up a number completely, 4 of the signals are common to everyone in that segment, but it's highly unlikely, actually, that that's the truth. So you're actually picking up the signals from a singular person that is being a human being when you're picking up the signals. And so, despite what the agent may be thinking, so that I think that is a major, not just a major positive. It's a potential game changer, because humanization is where things have to go, and at some point. But it's mostly been a very expensive process that's based on the idea of delighting customers and blah blah blah, right? So, my question though goes to the other side of all of this, which is, how do you look? You can message all day on, and I have one right here that came to me from Darren yesterday on the data. Okay, it's the data. We help you get to this point. Real voice of customer, real time churn analytics, blah, 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 blah. But those are features and functions and capabilities. Right. That's not really a message. Okay, that's just, hi, here's some stuff you need to convince you that you should buy us. Right? So, but how do you get the message across? I mean, how do you message to actual people with this kind of relatively either unique or close to unique approach? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point. The differentiation between personalization and humanization is super important, right? Personalization is already happening right now in a lot of other industries. I mean, all the ads that are thrown to us as personalized, right? Personalized to health. So that scares you, like, why are we getting these ads? But the humanization part is not really considered there in all scenarios. And so that's a very good distinction that you brought up. I think the issue is in the support world, what I've always noticed and always disappointed me is we became very metrics driven, and the metrics are all metadata driven. So you started looking at, oh, what is the mean time to resolution? What is the average response time? What's your closure rate? And it's become very mechanical. It's about treating every case as like one other case in the queue and not really seeing the human being and the problems behind the scenes. So when I was doing the support, I always like the intersection of the humanity and technology, and how the technology fails always when it intersects with humanity. So that aspect always stayed with me when I was looking at it. And I felt like this is not being completely captured in any ticketing system, because ticketing systems are only focusing on metadata and your operational aspects of what you do, and not the human aspect. So absolutely. So for messaging to customers concerned, right? The what is resonating and what people understand is in a lot of cases support experience that a customer sees has become your brand experience. And not only that, today a customer may have only one interaction with a company. Maybe they bought only one small product. Maybe they just bought a $50 product, right? Traditional support will say, you know what, that customer, we should just, if they call their support, give the product away for free. Don't even take the support call. It's not worth taking $50 product, and you're going to make a loss if you take the support call. But the other way to look at it is, this one person who bought a $50 product, if he has a positive brand experience, a great support experience, he is your marketing machine. He's going and it's going to bring you more revenue across different places. And maybe he goes, joins a different company and starts recommending you. So treating every customer and every customer interaction and as like, absolutely, this is the $1 million account, is very important for today's world, because in the SaaS world, in the subscription economy, it's very important that we treat customers with absolute respect and delight every interaction. And that's resonating with folks. And specifically, I'll tell you, there is this big hype in the valley about product-led growth companies. And the core concept of product-led growth companies is that you first ask the customers to try the product before you ask them to pay for it, right? Again, not new concept. I mean, we had trialware and shareware in the 1990s, so it's not new, but this is become the new standard now. So in this case, what happens is the first interaction that you have with the company is not with your sales team, is with the support team. And if your support experience is bad, you basically didn't even become a customer. So churn happens at the beginning, not at the end of the time of the renewal period. So this is dawning upon many of the accounts that we're talking to, and this is why we are resonating quite a bit with our audience.
That's really interesting. So, because traditionally, you think of the traditional business model is you create the product, you kind of market and sell the product. People buy the product, people use the product, people start having problems with the product, people start calling about the problems they have, and then they build a service model after that takes place. But with the subscription economy, you have to have your service model at the same time, or actually fully integrated into the business model, because if you sign somebody up 1 month and you can't solve their question that they may have in that first month, they might not sign up the next month and you lose the subscription. It might be gone forever. So are you seeing your offering fit with this change to subscriptions? Is it kind of helping to drive that change? Because quite honestly, there's still a lot of traditional thinking companies that I think would have even if they thought they could, use your service and really use it to the impact it could have, by some of the things we talked about, or is it somewhere where they have to really change their thinking and change the way that they operate before they can really fully take advantage of what you're offering them?
Yeah, I mean, the companies which are moving into the subscription model, which is pretty much every company, even on-prem companies and legacy pricing models, they're all moving to subscription model. And this is dawning upon them. This is a big cultural change. This is a big paradigm shift. On the surface, it looks like, okay, just the billing payment is going to change on a monthly basis. What's new? But it's a lot more than that, because it's the the convenience of people switching technology today has become much easier. I mean, you started the podcast with Netflix and HBO and Amazon Prime. How easy it is for us to switch a subscription from one to the other and cancel the other one to the other, right? And this is happening in the B2B space too. Products have become so simple to integrate. I mean, when it's simple to integrate, it's also simple to remove and add a new provider in place. So this is absolutely critical. So your relationship with your customers is what retains your customers, not the contract that retains your customers. And so this experience is such a critical component. Yeah.
I think that
Makes sense.
you made a really important point earlier, which was where customer experience kind of lies these days, where the power of it lies. I was having a conversation yesterday, and when you get to be venerable, when you get to be venerable, I'll as soon as venerable Paul Greenberg comes on, I'm going to tell him what you said, Brent. So you start forgetting things, right? So I had this conversation yesterday with somebody. It could have been on our happier hour, or it could have been independent. I don't remember. But the person asked me, do you think that the biggest impact on customer experience is still marketing, is where it's driven by marketing, or is it driven by service now? And I said service without any question. I mean, marketing, it's very interesting to see how alignments are going these days. Like, for example, on the one hand, you see on the tech company side, you see the alignment of sales and service now a lot, right? You occasionally see marketing and service too, but actually the pivot point's always around service. Now, that said, you also see in a much bigger scale the alignment of sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that chain, you find a revenue objective that marketing is responsible for, as well as sales is objective, and what qualifies as a sales qualified lead, and blah 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 blah. But service always minimally operates where service becomes interesting. You see all the this is actually another thing, and I'm actually want to get your take on this. So I've also noticed a number of tech companies, and not too many now, just a small handful, but tech companies and I'm not going to name names, but a couple of practitioner companies who are beginning to take a different view of service. So for example, you look at most companies, they have help desk, they have customer service, they have customer success, they have professional services, which are partly that too, and they're independent units, and they have independent revenue objectives, and blah 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 blah. But what's happening now is that there's a effort being made by multiple companies to bring all of them under one umbrella without losing the integrity of any of them, right? So, which, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of both coordination and optimal customer service, taking all of those units and bringing them under a single umbrella is actually a pretty smart move. But it's difficult too, because the objectives of, say, customer success are not the same as customer service, are not the same as help desk, are not the same as professional services, and so on. Mm-hmm. Now, first, what do you think of that trend? And then second, if that trend gains traction, and it's gaining a little, how do you see SupportLogic playing to that trend? Because then it's not just a matter of tickets anymore, but there are, let's say, to your original point, there are a significant number of different kinds of transactions that will be added to what constitutes customer service overall, the customer interaction overall. So first, the trend, and second, presuming the trend has some traction, how would you kind of rethink or add to what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the trend is absolutely, I'm on board with it. And this is a trend we have seen in other aspects of software development. For example, we used to have a siloed approach to software development. We would build software, the engineers will build separately, a testing team will test separately, and then a deployment team will deploy it separately, and the monitoring team will monitor separately. And the monitoring phase, you discover a bug, then you file it, goes back to development cycle, all siloed, different functions. Then comes this concept called DevOps. Then comes this concept called continuous integration and continuous CI/CD concept. Basically said you can compress all of this into one layer, and now one person can decide, writes the code, puts a monitoring in place, he deploys where he wants to deploy. Tremendous amount of efficiency. The modern SaaS stack lives on CI/CD. Now, the same question can be backed upon on our interactions with customers. And I specifically use the word interaction, not tickets, because every interaction comes in different forms.
Right.
You have a pre-sales conversation, you have a sales conversation, then you have a support conversation, then you have a customer success conversation. These are all siloed departments. Customers are bounced across different phone numbers and different email addresses and different people. End of the day, customer just wants to get to the value. These are all hurdles to get to the value. So from a customer perspective, it would be nice, wouldn't it be nice if there's one email address or one interaction they communicate automatically behind the scenes, it gets divided into different places and goes to the right place and right people, and they provide a great customer service. So I think this is very, to me, analogous to CI/CD. So in fact, internally, I call it continuous support experience or continuous service experience, very similar to continuous integration and continuous development.
That's fantastic. Amen, by the way.
Yeah, and are you is SupportLogic kind of coining the acronym SX?
Yes, yeah, we are. And
gotta be kind of careful with that. Just
yeah.
So you're walking a glass-filled road.
See, terminologies are always tricky, and you know I'm not the marketing person, but I'll tell you why we landed on SX, right? The issue with customer experience as a term is it's been diluted over the years. It means different things to different people, but predominantly what we are thinking about customer experience is brand experience and marketing. Marketing plays an important role. In fact, the largest customer experience companies are in the marketing space, right? Yeah. So, but for me, that's like marketing just gets you to the door. It's like going to the bar, right? You need Uber to get to the bar, or you need to have a directory or a Yelp to look at, okay, which bar to go to. Doesn't determine your experience. Your experience comes like when you enter the bar and how the bartender treats you and whether you're having a good time or not. And to me, that felt like, this is service experience. This is support experience. This is what determines the customer experience. Having a nice website and fancy other things that gets you the door doesn't ensure that the customer stays within the door. And so that's why we came up with support experience or service experience.
Hey, Brent, before we get to the question, let me ask a different kind of question. It just reminded me when he said bar, right? So this is just I'm trying to find out. So this is not the question though, just to be clear. So are you a person who drinks alcohol?
I do, yeah.
Okay, what do you like?
Depends on the occasion.
Well, if you're picking, let's say, a spirit of choice, an overall spirit of choice.
Off late, it's a sour beer.
Sour beer? That is a highly specific spirit of choice. Do you drink whiskeys?
I do whiskey too. I think if I'm in
the whiskeys, what's your favorite?
Yeah.
What would be your favorite type of whiskey? Would it be Irish whiskey, single malt Scotch, blended Scotch, Japanese whiskey, bourbon, rye? What? Canadian whiskey?
Honestly, I don't know all the varieties. Whiskey, I'm still exploring. I'm relatively new to it, right? So I would say Bullet Rye has been generally my...
I have work to do with you then. You're coming up with Bullet Rye. I definitely have to work with you. Listen, I am
into the rabbit hole there, Krishna.
Yeah, that's literally about the worst answer you could have given. Bullet is, You know what Bullet's great at? Marketing. That's it. Right. So, I mean, I'm not denigrating your choice, but I kind of am, I guess, to some degree.
That's why I said I get a disclaimer. I'm very new to
No, but I would like you to, if you were willing, to be your mentor in whiskey. I have 600 bottles at my house. You are invited to drink all 600, right? And I will explain whiskeys to you, right? And detail. And believe me, anyone who knows, and Martin knows, anyone who knows me knows that I'm good at that. That's actually what I'm really good at. Forget all this tech stuff, right? I'm really good at choosing whiskeys for people.
Walked into the lion's den.
Yes. No, that's not. No, the lion's den's coming. This was the lion cub's den.
I was just gonna say, if you go to the man cave and drink 600 different things, I don't think you'll ever get out of the man cave, and live to tell the story. But I will say this: I'm so glad that you had a kind of like a bar story to go with the SX acronym, because Anyway, let's move on from that. All right, so the main question. First of all, this has been a great conversation.
Amazing.
It's been a lot of interesting things that just started getting my kind of wheels turning in there. But we do have to ask this one question, because even though as great as the first 60 minutes, or actually 35 minutes of this conversation, if you don't answer this one right, that might be the last 35-minute conversation we'll ever have. So, do you have a favorite NFL football team?
I don't.
You're welcome back anytime.
Back anytime. There's literally only one wrong answer, and that is
the New England Patriots, otherwise known as the Rats.
That's right. So that is literally the only possible wrong answer.
Sorry, Joe Andrews. I know you're probably still out there.
Which means Joe will never be on the show.
Joe, Bob Fagel.
As long as we've known Joe, we've known Joe for years, and he'll never be on the show.
Oh, look, somebody putting in a vote for the Pittsburgh
Susie. Steelers. All right. I've known her since David's Bridal.
You know what? I don't know Susie. And
I do.
You had said that back in 1979 when I was a little kid and the Rams played the Steelers in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't like you right now. But I have gotten over it to a certain extent. So
Susie's awesome. Susie. She is truly awesome. Wow, it is so good to see that she watched.
Oh, now we are very.
That's right.
I like her now. Susie, you're okay with me. You redeemed yourself. We're
she
good
is
to
truly
go.
Awesome.
Yes. All right. So, Krishna, thank you again for joining us. This has been really good. I can't wait to see, kind of look at how you guys progress over time, because quite honestly, I didn't know much about you guys before Martin joined you, and we've known Martin for a long time. Joe, I've known Joe since his days at Zora, I think.
Yeah.
So you got some great people there, and so and it's great to meet you, and it's really a pleasure to see how this thing progresses. So thanks for joining us again. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure, guys.
It was genuinely awesome. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. So with all that said, I got to make sure I get our new closing image. Where is it? Oh, okay. So on behalf of Krishna, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and you know how we end things the new way we end things. Hey, Minnie. See you.